Live from our studios here at Kukumlimle in Accra, Ghana. This is Connect Africa with me, Carlos Kaloni. Tonight, Uganda Communication Commission orders shutdown of internet until further notice ahead of Thursday polls. More as President Museveni urges voters to back the national resistance movement for the country to continue moving forward.
Coffee, omwani aberekanya, more bananas, amatoki aberekanya, more cows. Eshandesha berekanya, more maize. Atebekusa berekanya, more sugar. Esukari berekanya, everything is more.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Bobi Wine has warned that he will call for mass protest if President Yoweri Museveni rigs the upcoming election, insisting the Electoral Commission is choosing candidate for electorate.
But they nominated another candidate on our ticket. Shame on you, Biabakama. We petitioned the Electoral Commission, but they refused. They said they are the ones to choose for us a candidate.
Well, we'll go into this shortly, but first, here is news from around the continent.
Uganda's opposition leader, Bobi Wine, has warned that he will call for mass protests if President Yoweri Museveni rigs this week's presidential election, as more than 20 million Ugandans prepare to vote on Thursday. Wine said the opposition would mobilize citizens to defend the integrity of the vote, describing the election as a protest vote. He maintains that the opposition enjoys widespread popular support, but has raised concerns about whether power will be peacefully transferred. President Museveni, 81, is widely expected to secure another term, extending his nearly 4 decades in power, backed by firm control of state institutions and the security forces. His main challenger, Wine, who is 43 years old, is contesting the presidency for the second time after his 2021 campaign was marked by violent repression and allegations of electoral fraud. Gunmen have attacked 3 industrial sites and abducted civilians in western Mali as jihadist groups intensify efforts to disrupt the country's economy. The attackers are believed to be fighters from the group to support Islam and Muslims, Janim, an Al-Qaeda affiliate that has imposed a fuel blockade and targeted industrial and mining facilities in recent months. The attacks, which occurred in the Kayes region on Sunday, caused extensive damage to affected plants, prompting the government to deploy reinforcements to the area. One of the facilities produces calcium carbonate, lime and plaster near the town of Bafulabe. 2 other industrial plants in the same area were also attacked and set ablaze. Meanwhile, Niger has revoked the licenses of dozens of transport operators and drivers who refuse to deliver fuel to Mali over security concerns. Mali has faced fuel shortages since an Al-Qaeda affiliate imposed a blockade in September and began attacking fuel tankers along major highways. The landlocked country relies heavily on fuel imports and had signed an agreement with Niger in July to supply 85 million liters of fuel over 6 months to its northern regions, where militant groups operate. Niger, an oil-producing nation, remains a key ally of Mali, with both countries governed by military juntas battling jihadist violence. Rwanda has announced its support for its former foreign minister, Louise Mushikiwabo, to seek a 3rd term as head of the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie, a global body that promotes cooperation among French-speaking countries. The announcement was made by Rwanda's foreign minister ahead of the organization's next summit scheduled for November in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Mushikiwabo has led the OIF since 2019, overseeing reforms aimed at strengthening the organization's political credibility, institutional clarity, and operational effectiveness. Rwanda says the organization has also increased support for Francophone candidates seeking leadership positions in major international institutions, including the African Union, the African Development Bank, and UNESCO.
Let's head to Liberia now, where Peter Bonjala, a suspended special assistant to Liberia's National Security Agency, NSA director, has been charged and remanded to Monrovia Central Prison following a police investigation into allegations of gang rape, statutory rape, and the kidnapping of a minor, a case that has shocked the nation and raised concerns about the country's security institutions. Jala is a close aide to NSA Director Major General Prince C. Johnson, appeared in Monrovia City Court on Monday, January 12, and was formally charged by the Liberian National Police before being sent to the maximum security detention facility pending further legal proceedings. Well, Police Inspector General Colonel Gregory Coleman assured Liberians that LNP is committed to justice, emphasizing that everyone linked to the alleged crimes, identified or not, will thoroughly be investigated and prosecuted under the law. Well, Joar Say Joe is a journalist and with Spoon Network in Liberia, Monrovia. He joins us via Zoom. Thank you so much, Joe. How is this case actually has affected public confidence in Liberia's national security institutions, especially given the suspect close ties to the leadership of the NSA?
All right, so thank you for joining me. So, thank you so much for having me in Orange. This case significantly shaken public confidence in Liberia's national security institution for the fact that the suspect is reportedly connected to the leadership of the national security agencies, that's NSA. He served as the assistant to the director general. So this case has was suspicious and skepticism.
Joe, I think we are having some terrible connection to your line there. If you may have to reposition yourself. But we are looking at a case involving the special assistants to Liberia's, one of the ministers there, and who has been charged for gang raping and a number of issues. Peter Bonjala has been suspended. He's a special assistant to Liberia's national security agency, and he has been charged and actually remanded in Monrovia Central Prison following investigations into some allegations of gang rape, among others. Let's try to reconnect with Joe. If you can hear me, if you could land on the point you were making earlier.
Yes, sure.
Well, Joe, so let me come in briefly. The security institutions, based on how this case has traveled, are they being seen as very independent in Liberia?
Yeah. All right, definitely. I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm trying to hear you. Maybe you may have to take that again.
Okay. So, based on what
Unfortunately, the connection to Liberia is really not helping matters here. These are some of the challenges with the continent. But from Liberia, let's go to Uganda, because the Uganda Communication Commission has ordered a shutdown of internet effective today, January 13, until further notice. The shutdown order comes just days before the Uganda general elections set for Thursday, January 15. The development also comes days after Uganda's authorities denied report that they are planning to cut access to the internet during next week's election, which is happening this week, actually. According to the Uganda Communication Commission, the directive follows a recommendation from the Interagency Security Committee, which cited the need to mitigate the rapid spread of online misinformation and other election-related risks. The regulator said the measure is also intended to actually prevent content that could incite violence or affect public confidence during the election. Well, the notice is defined public internet traffic to include social media platforms, personal email services, web browsing, video streaming, and messaging applications. The suspension will cover mobile broadband cellular, including fiber optic and other radio or microwave radio links and satellite internet services to ensure continuity of critical function. The Uganda Communication Commission said a list of exclusions has been established. This evening, Professor Masibo Lumala, Professor of Strategic Communication at the Moi University, in Kenya. And Tendai Mbanje is a governance and election expert from South Africa. They are joining us for more on this. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time here on Connect Africa. First, your thoughts on Uganda's political landscape as we speak. Let me begin with you, Professor Masibo.
Thank you so much. Please confirm that you can hear me. This is a privilege to be here once again.
I can hear you.
And I just want to say that the campaigns have been very, very heated in Uganda. And we take note of the fact that President Museveni is 81. He has been ruling Uganda since 1986. So he's been here almost when his major competitor, Bobby Wine, was born just 2 years earlier before he became president. Bobby Wine is 43 years now. So, yeah, the campaign has been very hot, and it looks like by all standards, this is the first major challenge that President Museveni is facing, and we look forward to having a nice conversation this evening.
Nice one. Tendai, your thoughts on political landscape in Uganda?
My thoughts, thank you for inviting me to the platform. I think my thoughts are similar to those of Prof. But I would like to add that we are seeing a new trend in East Africa.
Right.
After Tanzania and the East African bloc, they really condoned such a sham election. And we are seeing the same unfolding in Uganda, which is, and I think this is regrettable because this appears to be one of the worst elections that Uganda is yet to experience. And also the level of human rights violations, securitization of the electoral environment. I think it's unprecedented from my perspective, and for those that have been asking the situation, those who are based in Uganda.
Right. Let me bring in Professor Masibo. From a strategic communication perspective, what does a pre-election internet shutdown actually signal about how the Ugandan government views information and public trust?
Well, it's within the Uganda's, a constitution that, allow me to just 1 sec.
That's okay. Well, we're trying to speak to Professor Masibo there. He is a strategic communication expert from Moi University in Kenya. And we are looking at the situation in Uganda as we speak. The Uganda is set to go to the polls this week. And as we speak, internet services have been shut down in the country. But let me bring in Masibo.
Sorry about that. Essentially, the run-up to the elections that is happening on Thursday, 15th, has also been marred by quite a number of political violence. And towards the tail end, media houses in Uganda were actually stopped from broadcasting live campaigns. And many a time, I think we will see images of robots being stopped from moving from point A to point B. So that is the starting point. Now, as for shutting down the internet, I was pointing out that the Constitution of Uganda expressly protects the right to information and the right to self-expression. Shutting down the internet violates the Constitution in itself. And you and me know that communication is very, very important. And the information flow is very important when it comes to such a critical moment.
Right.
The implication of this is that either you are trying to prevent something from going public, and once you shut down the internet, there are people who are being disenfranchised who may not necessarily even be involved in the electoral process. So I think the biggest challenge that you will be looking at is people want information. People want to know how the vote is going, how the tallying is happening, where violence is happening. It's important for people to know why this is happening. So by shutting down, you kind of are preempting, and this could create the fear that people may have that there's a possibility that the election may not be free and fair. But I'm sure Tendai has a better way of looking at this from a governance perspective.
Right, thank you so much. Let me bring in Tenda now. So just like Prof said, how does an internet shutdown on the eve of voting actually affect the integrity and credibility of an electoral process like we're about to see in Uganda?
Thank you. As you know that on the eve of election, the temperature is very high. And in most countries, governments or electoral commissions try to inform the electorate. There's so many nitty-gritties around the election so that the temperatures go down. And in this case, what shutting down internet is actually raising the temperature. It's a breeding ground for violence, it's a breeding ground for instability. Elections are not only about casting the vote, selecting the leader of your choice, but they are a process of nation building. A nation is tested in terms of how it's building, how it's growing as a nation, stability, maturing as a democracy. Elections are also about revealing I wouldn't want to say the differences, but it's about revealing the issues that are underlying a society. So that's where it's critical that, like Prof said, that information must be tested. State institutions are tested. People want to know, are they protected? Is the police doing their work? Are the electoral officials adhering to standards of transparency and are they following polling procedures, for instance? So it's part of governance, it's part of adhering to standards, international and regional norms that are set on elections. Election observers need to share information about different aspects of the election and the election day or the polling day and where they are and what their findings. They need proper communication. People need to movement, and people need to train from certain areas, maybe that could be violent, like Prof has mentioned.
Right.
So it's about transparency. It's about maximum level of showing that the process itself is done with integrity, is done adhering to the standards. So shutting down, it's showing that.
Just Tendai, maybe I can jump in there.
Yeah, Prof may come in, Tendai, respectfully, just a moment. Prof has an intervention to make.
Yeah, no, I was just pointing out that the interesting part of this is that the internet generally is not targeting the elderly, okay? So shutting down the internet is basically targeting the young people. It is the urban dwellers. Those are the people who are tech savvy and will want to follow the proceedings of the elections using mobile phones, follow the elections online. And so by stopping them, in a way, I think is also making Museveni really, it's like, I'm sorry to say, but this may seem like a pre-rigging process where you want to deny people information, deny people the right to know what is going on. And just like happened in Tanzania, then you end up with the results that are skewed, and there's nothing that people can do about it, because notice the timing of the shutdown, and they say it continues until such a time that the Uganda Communications Commission, UCC, will then decide to lift the ban.
But so, Prof, if I may come in briefly, the Ugandan authorities are arguing that this particular move is aimed at curbing misinformation to prevent, any uprising linked to the election. Is that not a fair point to make, that people usually may want to use social media to incite others to get into violence and all that?
In my view, of course, if remember what is going on in Iran. Let me draw a parallel between what could happen, because presently in Iran, the internet has been shut down. And as a result of the shutdown of the internet, we are hearing thousands of people are being killed by the leadership of that country under the current uprising. But I think if you ask me, stopping people information is even worse off, because when you give people a blackout, then anything is possible. And it will not stop people from protesting if they want. We've seen it in Tanzania. We've seen it in Tunisia. We've seen it in Libya. It can, of course, the internet could help in organizing the protests per se, but I don't think that by Uganda shutting down the internet will stop people if they want to protest, should they feel like the election, we have had election malpractices and that something has gone terribly wrong as far as their perception is concerned.
Right, let me bring in Tendai. So what does this actually mean for democratic norms and electoral credibility in East Africa, especially given the region's growing reliance on digital campaigning and civic engagement? We've seen some of these things in Kenya as well. What does this generally mean?
Okay, before I answer that, I wanted to say, to add on to Prof's view, that I think there are fact-checking organizations that can debunk misinformation, disinformation. The government and civil society must be encouraged to say, if there is information that you want to cross-check, visit this website or visit this. So shutting down the internet is really out of order in terms of democratic norms. So what does this mean? The East African bloc is increasingly facing elections that are, I think, regarded as some of the worst elections on the African continent.
Right.
We had Tanzania, before Tanzania with Rwanda with 98% or so forth. So we are seeing that the elections will have almost, I think, shutting down the internet, like what Prof said, we'll see ridiculous numbers of the landslide win of particularly by incumbent regimes. So what it means is that East Africa bloc is losing credibility by day, and it will be, in the long run, it will be one of the most destabilized region, I must say. They have been relatively stable, but what is happening is that young people are getting angry by day. And they are the huge, in terms of demographic of voters, they are the Gen Zs, they are the majority. So what we are seeing, we are going to see an angry generation that may have an uprising anytime. What we are seeing in Iran, it's not far-fetched from what may happen in East Africa. It can start in Kenya, then spread in Tanzania and lead up into Uganda. The whole region can be in flames within a week or a day when young people unite and rebel against oppressive practices.
Right, before coming on air, we tried reaching out to some journalists in Uganda, and we're really struggling to get some to speak to. How does the internet blackout actually affect the ability of journalists, observers, and civil society organizations to actually independently verify results and hold institutions accountable in real time?
Well, I will tell you, because we saw it in Tanzania when journalists were barred from entering. The international journalists, including CNN, were not allowed in there. And it becomes very difficult. Just as Tendai was saying, you know, Kenyans are watching very keenly what is going on in Uganda, because we also have our own election in 2027. And we saw what happened in Tanzania. Suluhu managed to get 98% of the vote. And whatever happened, she's still the president. If the same script is repeated in Uganda, then the fear would be that it is possible not to hold free, fair, and accountable elections or transparent elections in Kenya, and still someone will still be able to be elected as the president. So our challenge as East African is to ask ourselves, is this democracy? Is democracy on trial within the region? Journalists have a very important role, and normally it is the internet that is able to bring out very quickly. Today in Kenya, news flows faster than even what we see on TV.
Right.
Thanks to TikTok, thanks to Facebook. So I'm just trying to imagine a picture situation where a journalist is hurt in the course of duty, and you cannot get to know what is going on to that journalist.
Okay.
Then they have this tendency. We need to be able to get information firsthand through live coverage. If there's no live coverage of the election, it becomes really difficult.
Right, let me bring in Tenda at this point in time. What options, I mean, the minority parties, including Bobby Wine, what options are available for them? The fact that the internet is off. They cannot communicate with their people on the ground, and journalists cannot go in the observers can also not have access to information. What options do they have as we speak?
I must say that their safety is at stake. Anything can happen to them, and it cannot be documented because people cannot share this because the medium of communication has been cut. So I think they must perhaps speak or find solace in a close connection with the African Union, which is present on the ground. They can seek refuge in embassies, or should they feel like they are being attacked and so forth. But they have very limited options because even their movement, no one can document their movement because there is no connection to be able to share or to document what they are doing. So their safety is really at stake. We pray that they come out of this process alive. Otherwise, they are in total danger.
Okay, in terms of security, internet is off. How do you envisage that security could be managed, especially to the advantage of everyone? I mean, government and minority groups. Tendai?
To the minority groups, you realize, like I said, that everyone is at risk because when internet is shut down, people tend to take advantage. Groups that have always wanted to do criminality will take advantage. So I would say that everyone is unsafe in this way, including government itself. People can do criminality, the rioters can get out of hand and perhaps destroy property. These things cannot be documented, it cannot be reported timely and so forth. So it's quite dangerous to cut any communication here.
Your prediction, briefly, 10 seconds. Who is going to win this election? Yoweri Museveni or Bobi Wine?
I would say that the election is not credible. It does not meet in any standard, minimum standards of credibility as from regional and international standards. So it's going to be the incumbent.
All right, then I thank you so much for speaking to us here on Connect Africa. Prof, I give you the final word. What are your expectations going into this election in Uganda? 1 minute.
My expectation is that, yes, the Ugandans will still make a statement regardless of the outcome. I know that it is so easy to imagine that the President Museveni will win. It is a predetermined outcome. But when all the chips are laid down, I see a scenario where the young man, 43 years old, has a lot of potential. And in another 7 years, maybe when he's 50 years, we expect him to be Uganda's next president.
If Bobi Wine loses this election again,
what?
If Bobi Wine loses this election again, is it going to have any political future in Uganda?
Definitely it has, because whatever happens now, what we pray for is that we have peaceful elections in Uganda, because a bad election, a flawed election will have ramifications for Kenya and for the other neighboring countries, and we can only pray for peace. And yes, he has made a statement. This is the second time he's trying out his luck. So whatever happens, if the numbers were to count, Bobi Wine will definitely win this election, given the outpouring of love and the people who have been attending his political rallies. But given the scenario, I'm not so sure that the numbers will count in Uganda.
Thank you so much.
In favor of the incumbent. Thank you so much. And we look forward to Professor discussing the results.
I believe we'll be discussing the results in due course. Thank you so much for speaking to us all the way from Kenya. And this has been Connect Africa with me, Carlos Kalone. You can log on to myjoyonline.com for more African-related stories. Hopefully, after the election, we'll be here again to look deep into the numbers. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.